successful New York Times. It says the rat that you smell is a racist piece of shit. Squatter. It seems maddeningly repetitive to have to return time and time again to the fact that 45 is a racist, but it must be done. It must be done because it is a foundational character issue, one that supersedes and informs many others in much the same way that his sexism and xenophobia does. On Saturday, 45 tweeted that Representative Elijah Cummings' district is a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess, a very dangerous and filthy place, and no human being would ever want to live there. Cummings is black, as are most people in the district that he represents. This talk of infestation is telling because he only seems to apply it to issues concerning the African American community. He has snipped about the Ebola-infested areas of Africa. He has called Congressman John Lewis's Atlanta district crime-infested, as well as telling him to focus on the burning and crime-infested inner cities of the U.S. He has called sanctuary cities a crime-infested and breeding concept. He has talked about how illegal immigrants will pour into and infest our country. He has called the presence of the MS-13 gang members in certain parts of our country an infestation. None of this is about crime as a discrete phenomenon, but rather about inextricably linking criminality to blackness. White supremacy isn't necessarily about rendering white people as superhuman. It is just as often about rendering non-white people as subhuman. Either way, the hierarchy is established with whiteness assuming the superior position. A survey of 45's tweet reveals that his attachment of criminality to populations is almost exclusively to black and brown people and to inner cities, an urban euphemism for black and brown neighborhoods. 45 has repeatedly made clear his view from the Central Park 5 case to a series of tweets he published back in 2013, writing, "Sadly, the overwhelming amount of violent crime in our major cities is committed by blacks and Hispanics. A tough subject must be discussed." But blackness doesn't make one more apt to abuse others, any more than whiteness makes one apt to abuse opioids. Human beings respond to their environments, to their needs and desires, to their hopelessness and despair. For instance, crime raged in New York City in the 1800s when there was almost no black people in the city. Indeed, in 1985, the writer and prodigious chronicler of the New York City, Edward Robb Ellis, wrote in New York Times about a citizen complaining about in 1852 that the increase of crime, the ferocity and frequency of assaults on private citizens at night in this city, and the imbecility and efficiency of the police is creating great alarm in the decent and orderly portion of our inhabitants. According to Ross, Walt Whitman himself said New York is one of the most crime-haunted and dangerous cities in Christendom. While the white people living in New York at the time, racially, pathologically predisposed to criminality, of course not, and black and brown people now aren't. That historical and sociological context is lost on the racists. Furthermore, there is nothing benign in 45's language. Infestations justify exterminations. There is a reason that Martin Luther King said in the final analysis, racism is evil because its ultimate logic is genocide. The mouth that demeans may not always be attached to the hand that destroys, but they are most assuredly connected in spirit and in spite. It would be easy to prosecute a case against 45 on policy, but policies are not at the center of the creature. White supremacy, white nationalism, and white patriarchy are the core of this man is racist in a way that is so fused to his sense of the world that he is incapable of seeing it as racist. It is instinctual for him to attack people of color. It is instinctual for him to denigrate the places they live and the countries to which they trace their heritage. He has so brought into the white supremacy narrative that this ideology no longer requires in his own thinking a label. For him, this lie of it is just the truth of it, and what is right can't be racist. This is a means by which racists have operated throughout history to rescue themselves from association with those who flayed the flesh of the enslaved, who raped the women and sold the children, who released the dogs and aimed the water canyons, who noosed the necks and set ablaze the crosses. Those demonstrated few, those consumed by hatred and sadism, those are the racists, not the exponentially larger groups who swallowed and regurgitated a warped view of the world, a doctored view of history and supposedly damning facts without contextualization. 45 is a racist. Say that out loud. Say it with the profundity that it deserves. That to me is the beginning and the ending of the rationale. I need to stand steadfast in my resistance. Yep. So basically the guy that wrote that article is saying that 45 is racist, and yes he is.